During the Democratic National Convention, former President Donald Trump took to social media for what he called his play-by-play of Kamala Harris's speech. What we saw was a barrage of posts ranging from personal to political attacks in rapid fire. He posted, this is a snippet of about 4 or 5, there we go, 5 posts of about upwards of 50. Trump also appeared on Fox News where he continued to criticize the vice president.
Well, the biggest reaction is why didn't she do the things that she's complaining about? All of these things that she talked about, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do everything, but she didn't do any of it. She could have done it 3.5 years ago.
The former president is making stops in 2 swing states today, hosting events in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Glendale, Arizona. CBS News campaign reporter Olivia Rinaldi is following the Trump campaign for us. So, Olivia, what can you tell us about these events?
Yeah, good afternoon, Lindsay. A lot of events that former President Donald Trump held this week. He's capping out this, counter-programming battleground tour that he was doing to the Democratic National Convention today. He's holding one event in Las Vegas just a few hours from now, and that will be his no tax on tips remarks. Now, if you'll remember, he announced that policy several months ago at his last visit in Las Vegas, and he announced that at a rally here. And then, as you know, Vice President Kamala Harris also endorsed that plan along with raising the federal minimum wage. So we expect Trump to hit her specifically on that economic policy today. The campaign is already out with an ad discussing how Vice President Harris and President Biden, should have already endorsed that idea if it was their own idea. So a notable campaign ad there. But then later this afternoon, Donald Trump will head back to Arizona. He was there yesterday for a visit at the border. He's going back later this afternoon for a rally in Glendale. And there's a lot of buzz around that rally because we're hearing that there will be a special guest. This is also coming as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. There are rumors that he would suspend his presidential campaign today. Our Libby Cathy confirmed that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pulled out of the ballot in Arizona. So his name is not going to appear on the ballot there. And that's extremely notable because as we are heading this matchup between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, every vote counts. So for Kennedy not to be on the ballot in that crucial battleground state is very, very notable. So we're watching all of these developments today, whether or not Kennedy will drop out and an endorsement could come of former President Donald Trump and any developments that will happen there. But we are heading into a significant turn in this presidential race.
So, Olivia, we mentioned Trump went all out on social media last night. What did he say? And do you find, you've covered him a long time, do you find that there's sort of a correlation between an increase in the counter-programming that he's tried to do and the messaging that he's tries to put out and his essential level of fear or concern of where he is in the race?
Well, I think Trump is taking this race very seriously. I think he is looking at the same things we are all looking at, the coverage of the DNC, the polls, the swell in enthusiasm among the voters, and they are taking that very seriously. It's a marked difference from what we saw when he was facing off against President Biden. His schedule has ramped up very significantly. Advisors I've talked to have told me that this is normal. We're roughly, I could think, 73 or 74 days away from the election in November. So this ramping up and hitting all these battleground states is par for the course, but it does show a little bit of concern that the Trump campaign has when approaching Vice President Kamala Harris and making sure that their counter-programming messaging is getting out there. That's why you see him in Las Vegas today talking about the economy. That's why we saw him yesterday at the border talking about immigration and talking to families there. This is all coming as he's really trying to frame these attacks against Vice President Kamala Harris. And you saw yesterday on Truth Social, and you saw in the graphic that they showed, Trump talking about saying that she was lying about Project 2025, about she didn't mention China. These are all things that Trump wants to make sure that his messaging is getting out about and that he's able to counter-program effectively against Vice President Kamala Harris.
Olivia Rinaldi, thank you.